To configure and control the WSL virtual machine, we can use the WSL.exe utility. The WSL.exe utility takes various subcommands like install, exec, list, set default, terminate, unregister, export, and import. We will analyze each of these subcommands one by one. We can also invoke WSL.exe without any subcommands. Let's see what happens when we do that. Since there is no distribution installed at this point, it is giving us instructions to install a new distribution. Let me follow the instructions. First, I will do a list to get the list of available distributions. Then let me choose one of those distributions for installation. I'm going to use Debian, which is an enterprise-based distribution. The installation is going to take a few minutes. Once the installation is done, we will have to specify a username and a password. Now we are directly in the Debian shell. I'm going to exit the Debian shell for now and get back to Windows PowerShell. We just saw what happens when we invoke WSL.exe for the first time when there is no distribution installed. We are given instructions to install a distribution. We have followed those instructions. Now let's invoke WSL.exe without any subcommands, and we see that we are logged into the Debian shell. I'm going to exit from the Debian shell and go back to Windows PowerShell. The first subcommand that we can look at is this ---- status subcommand. It shows that we are using Debian as the default distribution. This means that if we type WSL at the terminal, then we will be logged into the Debian shell. It also shows that we are using version 2 of WSL. WSL version 2 is based on a real Linux kernel and is not a simulation, unlike WSL 1. The WSL ---- exec subcommand allows us to run Linux commands from Windows PowerShell itself without having to explicitly log into a Linux shell. Let's run the Linux ls command from within Windows to list the files in a Windows directory. We can see that all the files in the directory have been listed. Next, let's look at the ---- list subcommand. The list subcommand can be run with a -o option, which will give us a list of the distributions that are available for installation. We can use the WSL install subcommand to download and install any of these distribution virtual machine. Running the ---- list subcommand without the -o option will show us a list of the distributions that are already installed on the virtual machine. The ---- install subcommand will allow us to install any of the distributions listed by the list subcommand. We are going to launch Arch Linux, which is a minimal distribution and does not come with any pre-installed packages. This will allow us to customize the distribution as we like. Now we are in the Arch Linux shell. We can exit it and go back to Windows PowerShell. If we run the ---- list subcommand again, then we can confirm that Arch Linux has been installed, but Debian is still the default distribution. This means that if we just run WSL at the terminal, then we will directly be logged into Debian. We can use the -d switch and specify the distribution name to select the distribution that we want to log into. Let's log into the Arch Linux shell. Let's examine the next set of WSL subcommands. The export and import subcommands allows us to export our distribution after we have customized it to meet our requirements. We can log into Debian and customize our distribution by installing some packages. I will try to install Vim, the editor. We are getting an error since apt package manager is not aware of Vim. So we will have to run the update and upgrade commands to refresh the repository information that is available to apt. Once the update is done, we can try the install command again, and we see that Vim has been installed. Now we can exit Debian and try to export the distribution. This would be similar to creating a Docker image, though it is not exactly the same. Once we have exited Debian, we can use the export sub command to export our distribution. The exported to import the distribution, we will use the import sub command. First, we have to create a directory. And we see that the directory already exists. Then we have to run the import sub command. To import the distribution, we have to use the import sub command. The first parameter to the import command is the name of the new distribution, and then we should see it when we do WSL list. The second parameter is the local directory, and the third parameter is the name of the distribution file. Now if we do the -- list, we should see our new distribution in the list of installed distributions. We can use WSL -d to log into our new distribution. Now that we have created our own distribution, we would like to use it all the time as a default. However, we see that Debian is set as the default distribution. To set our distribution as the default, we can use the -- set default sub command. Then when we type WSL at the terminal, we will be automatically logged into our newly created distribution. We have set Arch Linux as the default. When we do the list, we see that it shows Arch Linux as the default distribution. Let's look at the -- terminate sub command. This will stop a running WSL distribution and shut down all Linux processes in that distribution. It is similar to powering off a virtual machine. However, it does not delete the distribution, nor does it remove configuration files and the packages that were installed in the distribution. The -- unregister command, on the other hand, will completely delete all the files associated with that distribution. So in general, you can use the terminate sub command to free up CPU and memory on the virtual machine in case WSL is taking up resources and slowing down your machine. The -- shutdown sub command is going to totally shut down the virtual machines, and this will mean that all distributions that have been running on the virtual machine will be stopped.